So imagine wagering your entire life savings on this seemingly impossible feat of strength. You're betting that a single animal can drag 100 heavy carts, all loaded down with solid stone.
I mean, that is a massive gamble right from the start.
Oh, absolutely. And you've prepared meticulously for this moment. Like, you fed the animal the absolute finest food, you bathed him, you even hung this fragrant garland of flowers around his neck.
Setting him up for success.
Exactly. The crowd is watching, the money is on the table, and then you lose everything.
And not because the animal wasn't strong enough.
Right. Not because the animal was weak and not because the carts are too heavy, but because of a single poorly chosen word that just slipped out of your mouth.
It's crazy how one word can do that.
It really is. Well, welcome to this deep dive. Today we're unpacking this really fascinating tale from the ancient Jataka texts, and we've tailored this specifically for our Simplified Awakening YouTube channel community. We're going to find out exactly why you just cannot outspend a bad attitude.
It's such a valuable lesson, honestly.
Yeah. So if you enjoy this kind of psychological unpacking, please hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and share your thoughts in the comments to help the community grow. But for now, let's look at the Buddha's lesson on the devastating weight of words in the story of the Nandivisala Jataka.
I love this text. It's a narrative that, it sounds like a simple fable on the surface, but when you really look at the mechanics of the story, it reveals this highly sophisticated understanding of motivation and emotional intelligence.
Right, there's so many layers to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But to understand the gravity of the lesson, we first need to look at the framing device. So the Jatakas are essentially these ancient chronicles of the Buddha's previous lives.
They're like his past incarnations, basically.
Yes, and the recitation of these stories is usually prompted by a very specific, real-world conflict that was happening in the Buddha's present time. In this specific instance, the Buddha is residing at the Jetavana monastery, and he is directly addressing a faction of monks known in the texts as the Six.
Okay, wait, let's pause on that. Let's unpack this a bit. If the Buddha is addressing a specific faction like the Six, who exactly are we talking about here? I mean, is this just a group of general troublemakers, or was there a specific behavior he was trying to target?
Well, they were definitely a notorious faction. They constantly tested the boundaries of the monastic order, but their primary weapon was actually their language.
Ah, okay. Like modern workplace toxicity, almost.
Exactly like that. When they encountered respectable, well-meaning peers they disagreed with, they didn't, engage in a theological debate. They resorted to what the text translates as the 10 kinds of abuse.
The 10 kinds of abuse. Wow.
Yeah, they would taunt, revile, jeer at people. They were actively using their words to demean and belittle their peers, which obviously created a deeply toxic environment within the monastery.
But wait, if the goal is to correct human behavior, specifically this targeted verbal abuse among educated monks, why use an animal fable?
That's a really good question.
Right. Because wouldn't a story about human consequences, maybe, like a story about humans hurting other humans, be a more direct way to address complex interpersonal toxicity?
You'd think so, but it's actually a deliberate choice by the Buddha to isolate the variable of motivation. By taking his audience out of the monastery and back to ancient Gandhara, to look at a creature that we typically assume operates purely on instinct.
And just sheer physical drive.
Exactly. He strips away all that human ego and the complicated social politics. If a lack of respect can completely demotivate a massive beast of burden, it demonstrates that the need to be treated fairly isn't just, a polite human convention.
It's not just etiquette.
Right. It is a fundamental law of conscious life. He is proving that harsh words don't just hurt feelings, they actively destroy the capacity for work.
Wow, that totally reframes the entire concept. It just strips away all those complex human justifications we use to excuse our tone of voice, when we're stressed or whatever.
It completely dismantles those excuses, yeah.
So, to prove this point, the story takes us to the city of Takasila. We are introduced to a Brahmin who receives a tiny calf as a gift. And he doesn't just put this calf in a field to graze like a normal farmer would.
No, he treats it very differently.
Yeah, he treats it like a family member. He names the calf Nandivisala, which translates to great joy. And the text specifically notes the diet here. He feeds this calf a rich, nourishing diet of rice gruel and rice.
Which is huge. Economically, in this ancient context, raising a massive farm animal on premium human food is just an astronomical investment of resources.
Massive expense.
He is basically setting the animal up for optimal physical success.
Yeah.
And because of this exceptional care, Nandivisala grows up to be this magnificent, incredibly powerful bull.
But there's a catch, right?
Yeah, the crucial detail is that his consciousness develops right alongside his physical strength. He is fully aware of the immense effort and the literal financial costs that the Brahmin has absorbed to raise him.
This is where the narrative makes a move that just completely defies my expectations for an animal fable. The text states that the bull actually decides he wants to repay his adopted father by proving his unmatched strength.
Wait, so the animal initiates the bet?
What's fascinating here is that, yes, the animal absolutely initiates it.
That's wild.
But we have to factor in the theological context. The bull is the bodhisattva, right? A previous incarnation of the Buddha himself. So he naturally operates with a very high level of moral reasoning.
Okay, that makes sense.
He recognizes the virtue of gratitude and possesses this innate drive to repay the kindness shown to him. He isn't being coerced into labor at all. He's actively seeking a mechanism to elevate the Brahmin's status.
To pay him back for all that premium rice.
Exactly. So he specifically instructs the Brahmin to go find a rich merchant and propose this staggering wager. He tells him to bet 1,000 pieces of money that his single bull can draw a train of 100 loaded carts. 1,000 pieces of money. I mean, that is a life-changing amount of wealth to just put on the line. But the Brahmin actually trusts the animal. He goes to the merchant, they debate whose oxen are the strongest, and the Brahmin lays down the challenge.
And the merchant probably thinks he's out of his mind.
Oh, for sure. The merchant assumes this is physically impossible, so he immediately agrees to the wager. Which brings us to the day of the event, which is staged as this grand, massive public spectacle.
Everyone is watching.
Yeah, the whole town is there. The Brahmin lashes 100 carts together. And he doesn't leave them empty to make it easy, you know? He loads every single one down with sand, gravel, and heavy stones. He ties them sequentially, creating this massive, impossibly heavy train.
And look at how the Brahmin prepares the bull for this monumental task. I mean, it is the culmination of years of physical investment. He bathes Nandivisala. He feeds him a special measure of perfumed rice.
Perfumed rice, yeah.
He hangs a beautiful garland of flowers around the bull's neck. He is treating him with absolute physical reverence, perfectly setting the stage for the animal to exert maximum physical force.
Physically, the setup is just flawless. But then comes the devastating error. The Brahmin takes a seat on the pole of the leading cart. The crowd is watching. He flourishes his driving goad in the air, and he shouts to the bull, "Now then, you rascal, pull them along, you rascal!"
And with that single word, rascal, the entire endeavor completely collapses.
Wait, okay, let's be fair to the Brahmin here for a second. He just spent a fortune raising this animal. He's sitting in front of a massive crowd. He has his entire life savings on the line.
The pressure was definitely on.
Right. Isn't it just human nature to kind of snap under that kind of intense performance pressure? I mean, why does one single word of frustration instantly erase years of meticulous physical care and love?
It is a great question because it really gets to the heart of how motivation actually works. We can look at this through the lens of modern organizational psychology.
Well, really? Like what?
Like Herzberg's two-factor theory. Herzberg proposed that there are basically two buckets: hygiene factors and motivators. Hygiene factors are things like salary, job security, or in this case, premium rice gruel, a warm bath, and physical comfort.
Things you just kind of expect as a baseline.
Exactly. If you don't have them, you will be deeply dissatisfied. But simply having them does not magically generate extra effort. They just maintain the baseline.
Okay, so the food and the baths prevent the bull from being miserable, but they don't actually inspire him to pull 100 carts of solid stone.
Precisely. To get that massive, impossible burst of extra effort, what we in psychology call discretionary effort, you need actual motivators. These are internal psychological drivers like recognition, respect, and a sense of achievement.
And the Brahmin totally failed on that front.
Right. He provided flawless hygiene factors, but the moment he flourished the goad and yelled rascal, he completely stripped away all the motivators. He fundamentally betrayed their relationship just to look tough in front of a crowd.
That makes perfect sense. Let's look at how the text describes the bull's internal reaction because it perfectly maps to that theory. Nandivisala hears this insult, and his internal monologue is surprisingly logical.
Very logical.
He thinks, I am not the rascal he calls me. I have lived in his house all this time. I have never broken a pot. I have never aggressively squeezed up against anyone. I have never made messes about the place. He's basically evaluating his own track record and realizing the management's assessment of his character is entirely unjust.
And observe the mechanism of his response here. Because he is deeply, fundamentally offended by the verbal abuse, he doesn't attack the Brahmin.
Right, he doesn't gore him or run wild.
No, he doesn't go on a rampage at all.
Yeah.
He takes all that immense physical strength and he uses it to resist. He plants his 4 feet into the dirt like immovable posts and refuses to budge a single inch. No matter what the Brahmin does, the carts remain entirely stationary. The wager is lost.
Oh man, this is the ancient equivalent of quiet quitting.
It really is.
The bull just completely withdraws his discretionary effort. It is a perfect behavioral example of how verbal abuse doesn't always trigger aggression. Most of the time, it just triggers profound apathy.
People just stop trying.
Exactly. So the merchant collects the 1,000 pieces and the Brahmin is absolutely ruined. He goes home, his life savings completely gone, and he just lies down on his bed in an agony of grief.
It proves that you simply cannot buy discretionary effort with physical resources alone. You can give someone the best office, the highest salary, the best equipment, but if the emotional environment is toxic, if you speak to them like they are a rascal, they will just plant their feet.
They won't budge.
The insult didn't change the physical weight of the carts, right?
Yeah.
It destroyed the internal engine required to move them. And this was the exact lesson the unruly monks at Jetavana needed to hear. Their verbal abuse was destroying the spiritual motivation of their peers, completely negating any doctrinal support they might have been providing.
So the Brahmin is lying in bed, grieving his lost fortune. But then the story pivots, and the bull actually initiates a conversation. Nandivisala strolls into the house, finds the Brahmin grieving, and asks him if he is taking a nap.
Bit of sass from the bull there.
Right. The Brahmin replies, how should I be taking a nap when I have had 1,000 pieces won of me? And then the bull logically deconstructs the failure. He holds the Brahmin accountable, pointing out that he was unjustly called a rascal despite his flawless behavior.
He lays it all out.
And then he offers a path to redemption, but it involves taking on an even larger deficit. He tells the Brahmin to go back to the merchant and this time double the wager to 2,000 pieces.
It is a staggering escalation. The bull is willingly taking on double the psychological pressure. But there is a very specific, non-negotiable condition attached to this second attempt. The bull tells his master, only remember not to miscall me rascal again.
It all hinges on that one thing.
The entire strategy for moving double the money relies entirely on altering the tone of voice used to ask for the effort.
So the Brahmin goes back, the merchant agrees, and we arrive at the second attempt. Now, one detail in the text that really stands out here is how hyper-specific it gets about the mechanics of the rig.
Yes, the engineering of it.
Yeah, the text explains the harnessing process in detail. It says, first, he fastened the cross yoke onto the pole. Then he put the bull in on one side and made the other fast by fastening a smooth piece of wood from the cross yoke onto the axle tree so that the yoke was taut and could not skew around either way.
That's a very technical description.
Right. They essentially built a custom stabilized rig so a single animal could draw a cart explicitly designed for two without the physics of the yoke twisting. But why go into such a granular engineering detail for a moral fable about speaking kindly?
The inclusion of that specific mechanical detail is brilliant, actually. It establishes the sheer mathematical impossibility of the physical burden the bull is taking on. He is literally mechanically pulling a weight designed for multiple animals.
It's beyond normal limits?
He is willingly stepping into a massive physical deficit. The mechanics prove to the listener that the bull cannot do this easily. It requires absolute total exertion. Because the physical burden is mathematically impossible for one animal, he must rely entirely on emotional fuel to bridge the gap.
So the engineering details basically set the stage to prove that positive reinforcement is the only variable powerful enough to achieve the impossible.
Exactly. The rig is mechanically perfect, but it is entirely useless without that spark of motivation.
So we reach the climax of the story. The carts are loaded again. The rig is taut. The Brahmin takes a seat on the pole. But this time, his demeanor is entirely different. He reaches out and gently strokes Nandivisala on the back.
A huge shift in approach.
Yeah, and instead of a harsh shout and a goad, he calls out to him, "Now then, my fine fellow. Pull him along, my fine fellow."
He replaces the physical sting of the goad and the psychological insult of rascal with the warmth of a touch and the affirmation of fine fellow. He acknowledges the bull's actual track record and his inherent worth.
And the result is explosive. With a single mighty, continuous tug, the bodhisattva drags the entire string of 100 heavily loaded carts forward.
In one go.
Yeah, he pulls with such force and sustained power that the hindermost cart ends up standing exactly where the foremost cart had started. It is a complete, undeniable victory. The merchant is shocked, obviously, and pays the 2,000 pieces.
And the crowd loves it too.
Oh yeah, the crowd is so moved by the spectacle that they give additional large sums of money directly to the bull, which all goes to the Brahman, making him incredibly wealthy.
It is the ultimate demonstration that while physical provisions maintain the baseline, it is validation and respect that generate miraculous effort. And this brings us directly to the moral synthesis the Buddha delivers to those verbally abusive monks.
Right, back at the monastery.
He concludes the story with a very sharp, clear stanza. Speak only words of kindness, never words unkind. For him who spoke him fair, he moved a heavy load and brought him wealth for love.
For him who spoke him fair, he moved a heavy load. I mean, it distills the entire complex mechanism of motivation into a single sentence.
It really does. The text explicitly links fair speech to the inspiration of love and the literal capacity to move heavy loads. The Buddha is telling his monks that if they want their community to thrive and do the heavy lifting of spiritual practice, they cannot achieve it through the goad of harsh words and jeering.
It just won't work.
No. They can only unlock that discretionary effort by speaking to the inherent capability and goodness of the people around them.
As is customary in the Jataka tales, the story concludes with the Buddha revealing the identities of the characters in their past lives.
Always a fun twist. He reveals that the Brahman, the man who had to learn the hard lesson about how a single word can destroy years of careful physical investment, was actually Ananda, one of the Buddha's closest disciples.
Wow, Ananda.
Yeah. And the powerful, stubborn, yet deeply generous bull, Nandivisala, was the Buddha himself.
That perfectly closes the loop on the lesson. And for you, the listener, as we wrap up this deep dive, I'll leave you with a final thought to mull over regarding the mechanics of your own life. Think about the heavy loads we expect the people around us to pull.
We ask a lot of people.
We do. Think about your friends, your family, your colleagues, your employees. We are constantly asking them to carry burdens, to meet tight deadlines, to offer emotional support, to achieve difficult, sometimes mathematically impossible goals.
And they will inevitably struggle.
Exactly. When they inevitably struggle with the sheer weight of those 100 carts, how are you trying to motivate them? Are you relying on the hygiene factors, the salary, the basic provisions, while sitting on the pole, flourishing a metaphorical goad and calling them rascals when they slow down?
Or are you trying a different approach?
Right. Are you taking a moment to provide the actual motivators?
Yeah.
Stroking their backs, acknowledging their track record, and calling them fine fellows? The people in your life likely have the hidden strength to move mountains for you.
They just need the right fuel.
But the power to unlock that discretionary effort, to get them to plant their feet and push instead of planting their feet and quiet quitting, comes down almost entirely to your tone of voice.
The heaviest loads are never moved by force or basic provisions alone. They are moved by the internal fire ignited by respect.
Remember, you can't build a flawless physical rig and then fuel it with toxic words. If you want to see a miracle, you have to speak kindly.
Beautifully said.
To the amazing audience over at the Simplified Awakening YouTube channel, thank you so much for joining us on this journey into the profound psychology of the Jatakas. Please stay hooked because there's another incredible story coming in the very next video.
You won't want to miss it.
Definitely not. Before you go, we want to give you one final humble reminder. Please hit that subscribe button to support the channel's growth. Drop a like on this video if you found value in exploring the mechanics of motivation, and leave a comment down below sharing your thoughts on the story of the stubborn bull.
Let us know your thoughts.
We would love to hear how you plan to use words of kindness to move the heavy loads in your own life. Think about that wager, think about the devastating weight of a single word, and choose your next words wisely. Until next time.